The psychic's hands shook slightly as she picked up the photograph, her breath catching in her throat. In that moment, her calm demeanor faded, and her wide eyes reflected both awe and apprehension. It was as though she had stepped into a world that only she could see. Her lips moved without sound, as though trying to understand the powerful energy coming from the image in her hands. The man across from her noticed the change immediately. He hadn't expected such a reaction, and a sense of nervous curiosity overtook him. The psychic looked up, her gaze locking onto his with an intensity that made his heart race. Slowly, she placed the photo back onto the table, as if it were heavier than it seemed. "The person in this picture," she said, her voice soft but heavy with meaning, "is not ordinary. This person carries something profound, something that reaches deep into a person's soul." The words hung in the air, full of significance. The man leaned forward, eager to understand. "Unlock the power of intention," she continued, her tone almost reverent. "Type 555 to activate change." She went on to explain that this person in the photograph possessed a unique gift, one that defied logic or science. They had a way of revealing hidden truths, buried pain, and even forgotten joy. It wasn't something they did on purpose, it was simply who they were. "People like this don't just show up in your life by accident," she said, her voice steady but filled with seriousness. "Their presence signals change. And change is rarely easy." The man shivered slightly at her words. Something in her tone made him feel as though she were speaking to a part of him he hadn't even known existed. He remembered the person in the photo, and how they made him feel comforted yet unsettled. Their presence was deep and mysterious, a force he didn't fully understand. The psychic leaned in, her expression grave. "You need to know," she said softly, "this person's presence in your life is not a mistake. The universe doesn't work that way. There's a connection between you and this person, one you may not fully understand yet." Her words struck a chord in him, stirring a deep mixture of awe and fear. What did this connection mean? What was it asking of him? She paused, as though choosing her words carefully. "Transformation is never gentle," she said, her voice low. "It will challenge you, make you face things you've been avoiding for a long time. But if you allow it, it will set you free." She softened her tone. "You have a choice. You can ignore this, keep going as you are, or you can step into the unknown and see where it takes you." The man felt a knot form in his stomach. He wasn't sure he was ready for such transformation. He had always valued certainty and safety. But deep down, he couldn't ignore the sense that this was something he was meant to face. The psychic's words felt too true to dismiss. As the session ended, the psychic looked at him with a soft kindness that cut through the weight of her warning. "Whatever happens," she said gently, "remember, the choice is yours. The path ahead might be unclear, but trust that it is meant for you." Her words stayed with him as he left her dimly lit room, the photograph still in his hand. The unease lingered, but it was different now, more like the anticipation before an adventure. Walking through the streets, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was shifting inside him. The person in the photograph had always felt like a mystery, but now he saw them in a new light. He thought back to the times they had shared, small moments that hadn't seemed important at the time but now felt deeply meaningful. It was in the way they listened to him, the way they seemed to understand him without words. They didn't just talk to him, they saw him, truly saw him, in ways he hadn't even seen himself. It wasn't just their words or actions, it was their energy, their presence, that had always felt both comforting and unsettling. The realization hit him hard. This person had been shaping his life in ways he hadn't noticed. They had been guiding him toward truths he had long avoided. He thought about their past conversations, the ways they had been there for him, and how they seemed to bring out parts of him he had kept buried. Why hadn't he noticed this before? What was it about their presence that made him feel both safe and exposed? The more he reflected, the more he understood. This person wasn't just a part of his life, they had been helping him grow. They had been urging him to face parts of himself he had ignored. And now, he was beginning to realize the full extent of their influence on him. The psychic's warning echoed in his mind: transformation is never easy. The fear of change settled deep in his chest. But there was also a growing sense of excitement, of something new and unknown calling to him. Could he really embrace this transformation, this path towards something greater? The fear was still there, but so was the feeling that he was on the verge of something significant. He was standing at a crossroads. He could choose to walk away from this mystery, to ignore it, and continue his life as it was. Or he could step into the unknown, take a leap, and see where it led. It was terrifying, but something inside him told him he had to go forward. That night, as he placed the photograph on his bedside table, he made a promise to himself. He would follow this connection wherever it led, no matter how difficult or uncertain. The idea of change no longer felt like a threat, it felt like an opportunity. For the first time in years, he was ready to embrace it. In the days that followed, he couldn't stop thinking about the connection between him and the person in the photograph. The psychic's words had planted a seed in his mind, and now it was growing, shifting the way he saw their relationship. It wasn't just about their presence, it was about the transformation they were bringing into his life. He began to notice changes in himself, small, subtle shifts that told him he was becoming someone new. Old memories surfaced, memories he had long forgotten or buried deep inside. Some were joyful, others painful, but all of them felt important, like pieces of a puzzle he was finally ready to put together. The person in the photograph had always evoked these feelings in him, but now he saw it more clearly. He started to realize that this connection was revealing parts of himself he had kept hidden. For years, he had built walls to protect himself from vulnerability, from pain, and even from love. But this person seemed to bypass those walls effortlessly, forcing him to confront the parts of himself he had long ignored. It wasn't always easy, but it was powerful. He understood now that this connection was forcing him to grow. He thought about the way they had pushed him to pursue his dreams, even when he doubted himself. They had challenged him to see things differently, to open his heart and mind in ways he hadn't thought possible. He realized now that this wasn't a one-sided influence. He, too, had been helping them in ways he hadn't fully understood. Their connection had been mutual, a flow of energy that nourished them both. As he continued to reflect, he started to accept that this bond wasn't just about them, it was about both of them. They were helping each other grow, evolve, and change. And that meant that transformation, though challenging, was a gift. It was an opportunity to become the person he was meant to be. Still, the fear remained. Could he really open himself up to this change? Could he face the unknown and embrace the transformation it promised? The questions lingered, but he also felt a quiet sense of resolve. This was his path, and it was one he was ready to walk. As he moved forward, he found himself turning to prayer. Not because he was desperate, but because he wanted to trust the process. He began to pray for strength, for the courage to face the challenges ahead. He asked for clarity, to see this connection as the gift it was. He also prayed for the person in the photograph, wishing them happiness and peace on their own journey. In those moments of stillness, he felt a deep sense of peace and protection. He wasn't alone. The psychic's words came back to him, "The choice is yours." He knew that, but he also knew he wasn't walking this path alone. There was something greater guiding him, something he could trust. Each day, as he embraced the unknown, he felt himself growing stronger. The fear was still there, but it no longer controlled him. The unknown had become something he welcomed, an adventure that was shaping him into someone new. And with each step forward, he knew he was closer to the person he was meant to become. Embrace the unknown. The transformation is already happening.